Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Product Prism podcast where we explore the multifaceted world of product development. I am Manisha, your host, and today we are examining why India is still struggling to build enterprise level products. Is it a myth? What is the market condition and what is the product and people mindset? India has emerged as a global tech powerhouse, yet hasn't claimed its expected place in its enterprise software. But today we are not discussing the limitation. It's about transformation and untapped potential. Joining us, we have two exceptional product leaders who bridge global enterprise and Indian innovation. Anshul is country head for Bayer. Anshul has led Bayer's India operation with sharp focus on growth, innovation, and customer loyalty. With a strong background in business strategy, enterprise scaling, he enables B2B platform to thrive in competitive market. Welcome, Anshul. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Manisha. It's a pleasure to be hosted. And good morning, Aditya. It's glad to meet you.
Next up, we have Adi. Aditya is a senior product manager at SAP Business Accelerator Hub. Aditya brings deep expertise in building scalable enterprise growth solution at SAP. He has been contributing significantly to driving the digital transformation for our global customer. Thank you, Adi, for joining us again.
Pleasure. It was a great experience last time. So I can't wait for this podcast to come out. Very excited about it.
Yeah, Anshul, I want to hear from you more about Bayer and its expansion, especially in terms of B2B SaaS products.
Sure. So, Bayer India, we started doing with the BTL campaigns for CPG companies. These were more mainly bespoke solutions, but we have also diversified into trade loyalty part, especially for the companies who sell their products. I mean, physical products through a distribution channel. So there we are trying to carve out our niche and we want to move into a B2B side, building SaaS products for Indian enterprises, both large enterprises and SMB. So these enterprises have to sell their goods and push their goods to the distribution channels, and they have to incentivize their trade partners at different levels. And there is a lot of transactions happening between the sales manager, the sales teams, the finance teams of these enterprises and their trade partners. So as of now, a lot of these things are done either manually or through Excels or through their distribution. But we feel that there is still a scope and there is a niche out there where we can digitize it and build a group company and a good product out there. So that is where we are at Buyer India.
So now that you are focusing on B2B SaaS space, on growth and loyalty, how different is the Indian enterprise buyer behavior versus a global level? And do you have enough large customer pushing product excellence in India? What do you think?
A great question, I think, and I'm sure I would love to have a discussion with Aditya on this. Yes, I feel I've been on the other side. Being on the services side, where I've tried to services to global customers, and while I'm on the buyer side, I see a tremendous difference. First of all, I think a large enterprise, especially in developed market, US and Europe, they always had some kind of an incentive to automate the process and remove manual inefficiencies. But somehow Indian enterprises did not prioritize the software that much early on. Although things are changing quite a lot now, especially post COVID, but early on, the mid tier level, they won't prioritize the software that much. So India never had that kind of a large market as such, I would say. Whereas compared to US and Europe, where developed market is there, for enterprise software, there was always a budget, there was always a CIO, there was always an internal IT team for procure, but India never had. Second, I would say the sales cycle in India is quite long. Sometimes it takes years to actually convince a client and implement the software. And third, I would say they are also sometimes not fully clear about their requirements unlike their US or European counterparts, where they are very crystal clear about the requirements. As and when we show the demos to the customers, their requirements evolve. So we have to really work deeply with the customer, helping them by influencing their buying decision, both our product and sales team, to make them understand the utility of the software, what all the software can do, etc. So sales cycle is quite a long in that. And I will also say due to the sales cycle long, I think our customers are very risk averse. They keep on asking for free demos, free implementations, free POCs. So that is also a quite good challenge over here in India. So that is what we are encountering here and we are trying to overcome that.
That's interesting, Anshul. While I don't have India specific experience, I don't know whether it is SAP or it's common for all MNCs. For us, it's a customer. Usually don't know the address. And what you spoke about risk aversion. And that really struck a chord with me. I was trying to read Marty Kagan's Inspired, and in that there is this section where he says that customers buy emotion. They want to get into an emotional state. And that's why Apple is so good, because it doesn't sell phones, it sells an experience.
Excellent.
Now, I was scratching my head on B2B, it's very technical. It's very business. Where is this emotion coming in? And can I get an emotion? And so I started digging in this area, because as I run the Accelerator Hub, we ship enterprise components to enterprise class users, and they download and consume. So I'm like, it's going to be a technical, scientific, very cut and dry discussion. It does usually not. And that's the most surprising part. Why we succeed as a website is because we deal with single emotion, that is alleviating anxiety. I am a CTO. I have to sign a multi-million-dollar check, and I don't know it's going to succeed or not. That stress when I'm signing that if we can fix, I think we can sell more. So the idea was on that we put up a range of options available. Like you said, again, very strongly agree with you. Enterprise customer is constantly learning, and we are trying to educate them, right? Again, sorry, Apple and Steve Jobs, that guy's too inspiring. The famous iPod example, your whole music library in your pocket. While I would have gone with 128 GB, flash memory, size, weight. He just hit it just right. Absolutely. Enterprise software is very complicated, right? And I had this incident. I will not name that. It's a very famous brand, and it's quite close by in Bangalore, their head office. I walked in, and the sales executive told me, look, these guys want to learn about BTP. BTP is our technology stack. And I like, we have a 2 hour meeting, and they want to learn about the entire SAP technology stack, which has got like 25 different products. And each product, though I'm not an expert, even if I have to give one slide each, it will take 4 hours. I'm like, how is this going to happen? So he said, that's why I called you. I said, why do you call me? He says, your Accelerator Hub, every product is represented there. Then I clicked. Okay. So then I went up, just pulled out the website. You know what you can do? You can do this. See, there is this pre-built component available. You can do this. There's another pre-built component. You can do this. I didn't talk about BTP, which is like the jobs to be done story. And so this is the point that I was trying to make. For an enterprise customer, we need to show what is possible. Absolutely. Key features we offer, but how the features translate for them into their end job. Reason we do this translation is so that we tell them, typically 99% of the case, our investment is safe. Our goals, how can we make that assurance? So that actually was my perspective from when you start talking about the B2B buyer, and about the emotions that come into play and the education that you need to. It was a strong resonance.
Both have made great points. So Anshul has mentioned specifically for Indian customer, and in large organization we do not have the addresses of people, but we know what is the maturity level in the market, and that's what product guys do. They know everything about the product. So considering a place wherein there is a customer who's asking for something for free, I mean just to convert themselves, do you see a development in like brand loyalty coming into the picture, or do you still think that even if I do XYZ, I provide them free demo, I provide them free implementation XYZ feature, does Indian market still focus more on the number of feature we are going to get versus the quality of one very strong feature that I'm going to use?
Let me try that. So, with an Indian customer, we are very cost conscious. We are very efficiency conscious. We are always looking for jugaad and innovation. For me personally, if it has a jugaad kind of flavor, it has some trick to it, right? It really inspires. Like, we are the ones who came up with Nano, not we, but came up with the nano, and that was something people hadn't thought of before. It is a making a car is a simultaneous equation, and the more features you add, the heavier it becomes. So therefore, more features you have to add. We found a minimum where you can do the same thing and deliver the same features. Now, that kind of innovation only seen in India. We kind of try to squeeze the most out of something. And it's not just as customers. When we build something, we build it also like that. So that is the kind of a general mindset for us. We want to get the most out of everything. And that's not wrong. I really like that. And I want to do more of it, right? And if you look at leaders in the West, like Elon Musk and his philosophy, he would also say the same thing. You take a process, you improve it, you remove the excess out of it, then you automate it instead of first automating it and then finding efficiencies. And I found that very inspiring about it. So that is where I think the Indian customer is a very good customer to have if you want to really push the limit. It can be the other way around. They are very stressful customers, but you can take it any which way you want. What do you think?
True, I fully agree with you, especially the part where Indian customer is extremely cost conscious and extremely value conscious. And I have experienced this myself in many personal interactions with the decision makers in large enterprises. As well as I could recollect, I just read a book by ex Microsoft country head Mr. Ravi Venkatesan. In his book Conquering the Chaos, he wrote he has also traveled the world and worked across industry with 40 years of experience. He says Indian customers want the most out of any software across any counterpart in the world, and he pays the least out of any his counterpart across any part of the world, and that is what makes India special. And he propagates and he advises, like, if you succeed in India, you can succeed anywhere. That is what he believes in, and I truly believe. Now, what has happened is Indian customers, by virtue by being as an individual, he has been exposed to excellent B2C apps, and he has been traveled. They are well traveled, and they have seen best of the softwares across the world. So they are very aware and they are very cognizant of what technology can do. So as a customer, their desire and the value they are seeking is quite high, but at the same time, they had certain limitations in terms of paying capacity due to their organizations. So where there is a limitations. So that is where I will agree with Aditya. And I would also like to add that B2B decision making, especially in large enterprises, is quite complex because it's not the one person typically who makes the decision. There are many multiple stakeholders. Unlike their B2C case, the consumer or the decision maker is the same person, and the same happens in the SMB case. But whereas in enterprises, if the decision maker is, let's say, a CIO, he would need input. If he's buying a supply chain software, he would need input from his colleagues and peers of supply chain department, projects department. Or if he's making decision for finance department, he will need input from finance and accounts. So one thing they would look for is, can I have a demo? Can I have some free POC where the other decision makers or the people who are actually going to use can see and feel the software? So all this makes the decision making quite slow and challenging in B2B. But yes, I would believe the lessons what we learn from B2B are quite valuable and they can be easily replicated elsewhere.
In terms of risk, would you say B2B is riskier with a bigger payoff, or you say B2C is less risky?
Both have their pros and cons. I think what I have seen, B2B is risky if you want to stick to a product. What typically happens, it's very difficult to stick to a product and you end up doing services for B2B clients. So if you have that mindset, when you are okay or you are forced by the market to switch to services or go into a hybrid model where you provide product with a layer of services, then I would say it's less risky. But if you want to stick to product, okay, I would only develop product. I think it's hugely risky. Whereas in B2C, I would say the risk is higher, but I think the payoffs are quite big given India's demographic dividend and the large Indian middle class. So that is what I believe.
You again raise an interesting point, and I want to double click on that. If I have a very high paying B2B customer and they need some services, they say, I want the specific features in the product. How do you tackle that? Because that would be a really sticky situation.
Very interesting, Adi, and especially, yeah, that makes a lot of difference, and that shows. sometimes interesting debate happens in our office between sales, product teams, and myself. Yes, if a
Exactly.
B2B customer demands something, we take a joint call that what kind of a feature is he requiring? Is it like a generic feature? How critical is this feature to the customer's workflow for customers' business operations? What are our other priorities and what are our other payoffs? So it's a complex decision, and that is where the friction and the healthy discussion happens between sales and product teams. But more often than not, I think we still do, because we are in a growing stage. We agree to the customer and try to make him understand and try to come to a middle ground where we develop the feature required by him and deliver in the required timeline.
So if you can just take one more question for me on this topic, because it's super interesting for me. There you spoke about a friction between sales and your product team, right? Being a product podcast, can you give us tips on how to deal with a sales guy? Because when such things happen, my beautiful product roadmap, I've suffered and built it for a next 3, 6, 8 months. And then the sales guy comes in and that whole thing has to go into the dustbin. At least that is my feeling. As a head who is handling both sides, you are in the best position to tell us how we should handle such situations. What are the factors that we would really need to look at?
No, definitely. I have faced in my company. I recruited few people from B2C environment, and they could not understand why salespeople are coming and just hacking the out of their head out of this pipeline. By sales team, obviously they have their sales quota and they have to achieve those. Their own sprints have their own backlogs which they have to achieve in that. What I advise people in product there is, I think, have a lot of patience and be a part of customer calls. I often ask my product teams to be a silent observer and participate in the calls where sales team is talking to the customer, and put yourself in the shoes of the customer. It's not like B2C where the decision maker is the consumer himself. And no, I mean, I'll say no amount of the technique you have learned, I think, in IPL or somewhere, without playing, without having patience or bringing your emotions or bringing your empathy and understanding to the discussion will not work. So sometimes you have to strike a balance because both the teams are working in the interest of the organization, right? And both goals are important for the organization. So we have to strike a balance between the sales growth and the product growth. So in a B2B enterprise product role, I think product teams definitely need to have a lot of patience, be tactful with sales team and the customer, and speak to the customer, validate their assumptions, put yourself into the customer's shoes. And unlike B2C or SMB market, you will not get a lot of surveys or A/B testing, or you will not be able to validate through different sources. It's your customer who is in the hands of the sales team will be able to validate. Having said that, we have also done we have built two tracks of the team. There is one track which constantly works on the enhancements of our product without getting disturbed from the sales team. And we keep one version installed, and whatever the services we have to do, or whatever the layer of the services we have to build for a particular customer, we build on top of that. So there are two different teams we have put in our company, and that's how they work in the company.
Okay, so I understood this as a very brilliant middle ground that you have taken in organizationally to solve this problem. Instead of product team and sales team always fighting, split product team into two, put one as the core services product, which doesn't really change, and then services modifications on top, which can cater to the sales team's pushing that the customer wants something specific. And so the service team takes care of that, whereas the underlying backbone is stable across customers. So your product is not becoming fragile.
Absolutely. And if out of any feature out of those services component is generic in nature and could be useful to other customer, it becomes a part of the core product.
That's a great tip. Thank you so much. I mean, this was good.
And should we are talking about customers, talking about sales, we are talking about product. Now, very important question is, what do you think is the biggest hurdle in building a strong GTM motion for enterprise SaaS, specifically from India? Is it sales DNA, branding, or the exclusivity of the product?
I think a combination of both, and I'll say it's more about the services mindset and the willingness to spend, I will say. So if the Indian customer has a larger budget, is willing to put a larger bet on the software, I think the payoffs for the product teams or for the product companies will be higher, and eventually they will evolve themselves. And I think the product will develop, the entire enterprise market will develop. The sales DNA, I would not say. The sales people understand the customer psychology. They only want that their customer should get the best value out there. So I feel the willingness to put more budget, and if they are willing to have some risk and ready to modify their processes to adjust to the software, I think that is where it will make a big change.
But to that point, wherein we are talking about B2B product, the cycle of feedback and the multi-stakeholder needs, it will take a lot of
It
time.
takes a lot of time.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time. How do you nurture your talent?
That's true. So as I said, based on the team's skill set and the team's mindset, which we come to know during the interviews, we make them join the two different teams. One, the team which takes care of the core product, and one team which takes care of the services part. So the services part, the team which works on the services part, as I said, I make them talk to the salespeople quite often, and I definitely ask them to be a part of different sales calls and develop empathy where they understand what our customer needs. And we also ask them to accompany the sales team in different meetings, and we also showcase like how the past sales have been successful, on what reasons did the customer buy, or on what reasons did the customer reject us, because sometimes it is not necessary that you are rejected on price. There could be some other reasons also. So the grooming part of the team, which is in the services layer of the product, is different from the core product. So that is how we focus on the mindset of the product team there. The skill set we definitely understand. They learn on themselves. There are pretty much a lot of learning modules and tools available, and great platform like IPL is there. But it's the mindset where we have to work with the product.
Great. Adi, in your company, SAP, we know it's a backbone of enterprise resource planning worldwide. Do you think with the tag of trusted enterprise partner comes a lot of pressure when it is GTM? And also we are considering that there are a lot of new products that are still in building and making. So even Indian competitors are also there in this space. So how much do you think this regulatory compliance or the ecosystem integration and SLAs would affect the adoption of the emerging products in India?
It's a quite a wide market. I mean, focusing on one part would be difficult. But like if you look at a trusted partner, that's one thing you said, and trusted partner for GTM, right? Now that I think nobody better than Anshul to answer that. But because how it's structured is there is a provider, like Zoho is a provider, right? SAP is a provider. Now, but a customer's everyday job is to run their business, not to do GTM, particularly for a campaign, or not to particularly install ERP software or make an ERP software or customize ERP software. So one person is required, or one persona is required, who can guide the customer on understanding their business and do one specific deep domain skill kind of a job. And this persona is called the trusted partner. Now you can have a trusted partner for many things. Now, typically, who will be your trusted partner? Infosys, Wipro, Accenture, Capgemini. Sticking to Indian names, then Infosys, Wipro, Happy Minds are the trusted partner who would do GTM. Okay, Anshul is looking at me. Buyer is also a trusted partner. Yes, I mean, I understand. So each trusted partner now, if you understand, has a specific ability to guide the customer's long-term goals, and they are the partners with the customer. So they go together with the customer. But their job is to have deep domain knowledge in that specific area. Where the customer's idea is to run the business. So this is a very level question to the very deep domain question you had asked. But that deep question, I don't know, maybe I can handle. But even if I can handle, it will take a few hours. Having asked that question, I want to put it to Anshul. When you are a trusted partner to a customer doing either the B2B SaaS or the GTM part in buyer, what is the relationship you try to develop with a customer? How should we learn as product people to develop such relationships with our customers, especially in B2B role? How do we become trusted partners? Let's put it that.
I think two things have helped us tremendously. One, during the sales process, even before the customer has committed anything, if we can demonstrate an ability that we understand customer's business and customer's process as good as him, that has made a lot of difference in enterprise. We have had few salespeople from product selling background, and if you try to sell the features, as you said in during the start of the podcast, if you try to iterate, okay, my product has XYZ list of features, sometimes it may not work. There may be a point in the decision making where they compare your features with some other competitors. But during the sales process, if you can demonstrate the ability that you understand I understand what you need, I understand your challenges, I understand your company's process, how your company's process is different from other, and what kind of ROI or KPIs you are looking at, that has helped us build trust and credibility. And second is, once the software is implemented, the users have started using that. We also have a team which works closely with the product teams, which keeps on sharing the insights or the data or the MIS reports, highlighting the different KPIs which the company wide those teams were supposed to achieve. So we try to understand why some teams were successful, why some regional teams were not successful, and we'll keep on advocating and keep on giving different suggestions to our customers how they can make those behavioral change within their organizations. I think these two things we have done, and obviously it doesn't happen over one or two meetings, happens over a period of time, but that has definitely helped us build trust and credibility.
So, Anshul, I have a hot seat question for you based on this. Organization have their KPIs regarding profitability, regarding ROI, and customers, especially Indian customers, are very cost and value conscious.
Yeah.
This seems like and if I'm a salesperson or a product person trying to cater to both, it looks like I'm stuck with a rock and a hard place. Both are sometimes contradictory or diametrically opposite demands. So my question to you is it diametrically opposite? The vendor or trusted partner's ROI versus the customer's goals, objectives, and cost concerns? And how do we handle that? Or are they actually the same thing in a long-term relationship?
I think great question, Adi, and I think answering that question, so I think sales team definitely our sales team has been trained to definitely answer these questions, and sometimes our customers come with that kind of perception, and they may feel or somebody may feel that these goals are contradictory in nature, but I do not think so. The costs of the software or the cost what the vendor pays to us, even over a longer time frame, let's say 2 to 3 years, is very less compared to the portion of the ROI or the profitability they have to achieve. Whether it's their marketing goals or if there is a cost saving goals, it is a very less, very small portion of that kind of a cost. So in the longer run, I do not think these are contradictory in nature. But yes, our sales team are trained and to explain to our customers how our customers tend to benefit and how their business outcomes or business objectives will be met over a period of a time. It won't happen in a month of 6 months or 1 year. How the productivity gains will be far higher than the cost they pay to us.
So we have seen a trend specifically in Indian market that most of the Indian product would hit a ceiling after serving SMBs.
Yes.
So, do you think this is blocking the scaling of enterprise? Because if you see like companies like Razorpay, Freshwork, they love their SMB clients and they start with SMB client. But there are very few products which eventually evolve into full-fledged enterprise grade platform. What is stopping them? What do you think?
So, Manisha, I think as in enterprise level, one I say the market is very fragmented also. It's not that even within the same industry, sometimes if we leave the HR function or the finance and accounting function, the processes even within the same industry across top 10 companies will be different. So it becomes very hard. Like if you are picking, let's say, industry A, and you are talking to three customers within the same industry, sometimes their processes internally may also be slightly different. So it makes very hard to generalize and productize the requirement. So that's what I said. the product we have, there is a layer of services also on top of that, which could be slightly different for customer A, customer B, or customer C within the same industry. That is where I say you are right. There is a ceiling, but I say the things are changing. Indian customers are increasing their budgets and deploying more budgets towards digitization. But still, yeah, if a product company aspires to become big, and if say let's say they have raised funds and if they have to provide ROI to the investors, sometimes they have to look a market outside India. That's why you see the Freshworks and a lot of SaaS-based companies which are very successful from India. Their major proportion of sales is outside India. So definitely Indian market has a ceiling, but I'll say they are also growing at a decent pace.
You come from a large organization, you know how it works. I was just reading an article, and we know that there is like quite a lot of businesses are transferring their services to India. And definitely there is a cost line to that. But they know that India is kind of the biggest engineering back office. So do you think that we can still derive the product mindset from them? Or do you think that the MVP fast output thinking would still overpower the bigger thought of creating something that is as big as Microsoft or Google of the world?
Easiest answer to this, I've been exposed in maybe a little bit in Germany to such kind of things, is that when our universities start taking responsibility, they're creating startup ecosystems. So a straight line connecting academia with innovation, with technology. When that starts happening, India will just jump to the next level. But if our universities are more of, I don't like the term, but are productizing or mass assembling graduates, then we will still be an engineering back office. So where does the powerhouse of the engineering back offices is our universities churning out graduates instead. Now, when these universities are churning out graduates for STEM who are directed to become work employees, now if they change the mindset and said, hey, you know what? Let me have a startup track also in the university mandatorily. Then we will start seeing changes. Because in order to build a startup, in order to build an innovation, you have to have a little bit of stupidity or exaggerated
Creativity.
optimism.
We need creativity.
If you ask me to build a startup, I will see thousands problems. But someone coming out of the university, they don't see the problem. They just see how the world can be instead of what the world is. They don't see the problems. They see the vision. I mean, for an old timer like me, I would call it stupidity, but it is required. It is mandatory. You have to be a crazy optimist. And when we start doing that early on in our universities, India will change. We are powerhouse. Like, I loved this feeling, when Sam Altman came over here and said India can't build LLMs. Of course, he was quoted out of context, is what he said. But Indians said, challenge accepted. We'll build an LLM. We have an LLM, right? And then I would love to see a deep sea coming out of India. That requires a slightly crazy mindset. I would also like to incorporate it. First,
About universities and how it is very important to work on the education system to kind of inculcate that thought process of creativity or stupidity, whatever you said. But don't you think a lot is coming from the risk taking appetite inside the company? There is now a new concept of intrapreneurship wherein there is a set of people. Okay, if you meet XYZ criteria, if you are grade A in, let us say, for 1-2 years, then you will be moved to that team wherein you would be then asked to think about developing a new product or something. And I know big organization do provide, but at a level for country like India, wherein the risk taking appetite for the people in general is lower because developing countries, financial pressure, etc. Do you think that we have that model within the company? We provide that space and that confidence to the people who are working, let us say, at analyst level or somebody at a QA level, that they can do much more and their contribution is as valuable as somebody who's sitting in a product team and making some decision to bring in new product.
Manisha, Anshul is better at answering this. I will answer.
You're passing all the questions to Anshul.
So
But
Aditya is good at ducking the questions. No,
no, I'm not ducking. That's what I say. I'm not ducking, but really, I want your opinion on it. I have one, but I want yours.
Oh, happy to answer that. Yes, I think Manisha, risk somewhere. I think the risk-averse nature of our nation plays definitely a big role. If you move the clock, like said, 15, 20 years behind, even doing a B2C startup was not considered cool or was considered risky. But I think the successes of Flipkart, Zomato's, and so many B2C startups has changed the mindset of Indians. And even if a young person joins a startup, even if it is not funded, they know that there is going to be tremendous amount of learning over there. But that kind of successes in enterprise product level or a SMB product level has not come. And as I said, as corporate profits are growing, their mindset and their willingness to put more budgets is changing, and gradually we may have more startups or more product enterprise product focused companies. So that is where I think the product companies will also take more risk and put teams over here. And I think it's not a it's not going to happen overnight or within few months. The behavioral change will happen over a period of a time, and it has to happen across different stakeholders in the ecosystem. It's not only the customer, the buyer, I mean, buyer not as a company, but the buyer at the enterprise rate, the product company, and as well as the investors. If you see the investor ecosystem in India for enterprise is kind of small. They see the market as small. They see B2C side quite large, and where there could be a bigger payoff. That's why they want to play the bet there. But I think if the risk averse nature of all different stakeholders change, things will change in the enterprise product level.
Can I ask you one more question on this? A little bit stretching that out. Manisha spoke about entrepreneurship. You also cutting to the chase. What is the propensity of the Indian enterprise to disrupt itself? So if you have an entrepreneurship and they come up with a very radical idea, but it will be disruptive. So you remember we spoke about having a product team separate from a services team so that you have product stability, right? Now, when you have an entrepreneurship team and they come up with a radically different concept, which will disrupt the product team, but is also going to disrupt your competitors, how would you handle such a thing?
Yes, and I mean, that is what is happening in our company right now. We have empowered few individuals, and we have been lucky to have few individuals like who display the and who showcase the ability and who work as an entrepreneur. And we have built a culture in the company where we definitely empower them. And these kind of situations do come, and sometimes you are referring to some crazy ideas, some kind of that kind of a discussions to happen in the company where one person or the one team say the other person, boss, your idea is completely crazy, this is not going to work. As a management, I would say that we have carved out a different capital for risk taking, and the core idea is not to disturb what is going on and what is stable. So we, as much as possible, we try to keep the teams different. And at the management level, we allocate different capital for risk taking. Otherwise, what happens is if you mix the teams and if you mix the individual, their priorities are contradictory in nature. And typically they end up doing what is works immediately or what is stable and not working in the entrepreneurship side.
So, can I also ask, how do you treat it differently from a product's perspective? From a product person perspective. So is the same product person handling both the stable part and the disruption? Or, and if you want to position the disruption, how would you position it? Somewhere along those lines, do you have any thoughts?
No, as of now, yes. So we had for long, we had one person who was looking after at the board teams, but I think that did not work because what I believe is more than the skill set, it's the mindset required is completely different for the two teams. So now we have two different team members who look after the stable part of the product and one who is looking for the disruptive ideas or innovative ideas, trying completely different things. And yes, that challenge I am anticipating, that challenge may soon come where the disruptive ideas will challenge the core stable portfolio of the company. That is where I think we are. And we believe that somewhere we are ready for taking that risk because we believe if we do not take the risk now, in the longer run, our competitors may outclass us or may outgrow us. So definitely that risk has to be taken somewhere.
So Anshul, you have answered my question. Is Indians going to disrupt itself and go for innovations? You have answered with a resounding yes. Yes, we will. and we have the risk appetite to do so. And that sounds so nice to me. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Adi.
I'm impressed.
I would want to go for a rapid fire round wherein I'll be asking question, maybe one word answer or a short answer would be appreciated. So, Anshul, to you, one thing Indian founders misunderstand about enterprise product development.
I will say the paying capacity. I mean, in terms of delayed payments, once although the sales cycle is quite long, but if you are able to raise the invoice timely, I think the payments definitely do come in time. I've spoken to a few close friends. They think that payment sometimes will not come, and they switch to services which is more easier to bill on a per man day or a monthly man day basis. But I disagree there.
One thing you would change in India's product ecosystem today.
I want universities to have startup incubators. Definitely, I want that.
Most overlooked enterprise capability you wish more Indian products should build.
Here on the marketing side, I would say there is a lot of reliance on the manual workforce over there, and probably we think that there is a scope to use AI there and somehow automate all these GTM processes and GTM campaigns of large enterprises. So probably I feel if the founders are there, they can look at that space.
Adi, from your experience, one piece of advice for the PMs who want to break into enterprise product roles.
Patience. I am taking a page out of Anshul's book, and I agree with that.
Yes. And I mean, although this question is for Adi, I would like to chip in with my 2 cents. In product schools or different product, whatever so, okay, wherever you have studied, you have gained your product skill set. It's more about feature development. If you get a kick out of feature development, okay, I have developed so XYZ features in 3 months, etc. Enterprise product space is probably not there for you. So patience and don't expect too much feature development in a quick time frame.
And
So,
one last question. What is the secret of building a globally relevant B2B product? So, in one line, what's the secret of building globally relevant B2B product?
I don't know. A globally relevant B2B product is a function of scale. You need to have, it's about, in my mind, I am building a two-sided market, and that's where you start getting people together. So if I'm a B2B software, it should be also a place that I don't know the capabilities, but I also provide a directory where buyers and suppliers can come together. I am also a platform. If I were to create a new B2B software, it's not just a software, it's also a platform. That would be the key of cracking that egg.
I think there should also be consistency around user experience and operational excellence as well, because maintaining enterprise product again comes with hefty cost and manpower as well. It's not a secret, but the consistency is a game changer. Thank you, Anshul. Thank you, Aditya. That was an amazing conversation. A lot about product development, Anshul, from you, and I do see a lot of passion of what you are building, and not only building your product in general, but about the Indian market that you have mentioned. I feel that that is something which is noteworthy, and that was a very fascinating conversation in general. And thank you, Adi. Thank you, Adi, for helping me out by asking a lot of questions to to Anshul. And I would want to see more of what buyer is bringing to the table for Indian market, and will be more than happy and proud that a company specifically willing to serve Indian market space is building something that's larger than life, I would say. So so, yes, that's the end of our podcast. And the challenges that we have discussed aren't permanent. It's the opportunity for transformation with the world largest technical pool, a growing domestic market, and a unique perspective on the problem solving and scaling. India has all the ingredient to become the enterprise product powerhouse as well. And thank you so much to our brilliant guest for turning a discussion of challenges into roadmap of possibilities. If you are anyone who's building into that space, we hope this episode is spark ideas and you will be coming up with your next bit. Thank you, Anshul. Thank
Thank you,
you.
Manisha. Thanks so much for inviting me. It was a lovely conversation with both of you. And I also learned a lot of things today. And more power to you guys. And it's an excellent initiative for people who want to build out their careers in the product space in India.
Thank you so much.